Picture this, a fog-drenched alley at dusk, the kind where shadows seem to whisper secrets. You're alone, footsteps echoing off damp cobblestones, when a figure steps into view. Their face is half-lit, eyes glinting with intent. "I can give you what you've always wanted," they say, voice smooth as velvet, sharp as a razor. Your pulse quickens, not from fear, but from something deeper, a hunger you didn't know you carried. Power, belonging, certainty. They know you, or so it feels, and in that moment, you're tempted to follow. But then, a question slices through the haze. What's their angle? The air grows colder, the alley narrower. You're not just walking, you're teetering on the edge of a game where every word, every glance, is a move to pull you into someone else's story. The real question isn't what they want, it's why you're still standing there, listening. This is the paradox of manipulation. We pride ourselves on being free, yet we're drawn to those who promise to shape our chaos into order. We tell ourselves we're untouchable, masters of our fate, but how often do we hand over the reins without a second thought? Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance master of power's dark arts, saw this contradiction with brutal clarity. In The Prince, he didn't just describe manipulation, he dissected it, exposing its roots in human desire, fear, and frailty. To explore his ideas is to confront uncomfortable truths about control, not just over others, but over ourselves. How does manipulation take hold? Why do we fall for it? And what does it say about the stories we tell ourselves to survive? Let's start with the mechanics of the mind. Our brains are wired for survival, not truth. Neuroscience reveals we're less rational than we'd like to believe. Prediction machines, constantly scanning for patterns to navigate uncertainty. The amygdala, that primal knot of emotion, flares when we sense danger or doubt, urging us to act fast, often before reason kicks in. A manipulator knows this instinctively. They don't argue with logic. They paint a picture that feels true. Picture a charismatic leader on a stage, voice rising as they promise to fix a broken world. The crowd doesn't pause to check facts. Their hearts race. Their minds latch onto the certainty offered. This is the availability heuristic at work. We lean toward what's vivid, immediate, emotionally charged. A good story trumps a spreadsheet every time. But it's not just biology. Cognitive biases stack the deck. The confirmation bias makes us cling to ideas that fit our worldview, dismissing contradictions as noise. A marketer selling a lifestyle brand doesn't need to convince you, just reinforce what you already believe about yourself. You're unique, they say, and you nod, even as you buy the same curated rebellion as millions. Then there's the illusion of control. Studies, like one from Stanford in 2019, show we overestimate our resistance to persuasion. Participants exposed to obvious propaganda still claim they were unmoved, blind to how deeply it shaped their views. We think we're immune because admitting vulnerability feels like defeat. Machiavelli would laugh. He knew the strongest chains are the ones we forge ourselves. Now layer in philosophy. Friedrich Nietzsche saw humanity's herd instinct, our need to belong at the cost of individuality. To manipulate, you don't need force, just a tribe, a shared myth. Offer people a cause, an enemy, a flag to wave, and they'll march, not because they're coerced, but because they crave the warmth of the group. Carl Jung dug deeper, pointing to the shadow, the desires and fears we bury. A manipulator doesn't just appeal to your virtues, they whisper to your envy, your shame, the parts you hide even from yourself. They make you feel understood, then twist that trust to their ends. Imagine a friend who always knows your insecurities, subtly nudging you to doubt yourself until their advice feels like gospel. That's not friendship, it's strategy. Let's make it real. Picture Elena, a graphic designer in her 20s, sitting in a sleek office. Her boss, Marcus, is all charm, praising her latest project with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Then comes the pivot. You're talented, but you need to push harder to stand out. Her stomach knots. She wants his approval, fears she's falling short. He suggests she lead a high-stakes campaign, framing it as her big break. She agrees, ignoring the burnout creeping in. Marcus didn't raise his voice or issue threats. He played her like a violin, striking the chords of ambition and insecurity. This is Machiavellian finesse. Control not through domination, but through desire. Scale this up, and you see society's gears turning. Machiavelli advised rulers to master fear and love, but fear is the sharper tool. It's primal, rooted in the lizard brain that screams survive. Governments know this. A 2023 study on public compliance found that fear-based messaging, think terror alerts or pandemic warnings, increases obedience by 40% compared to neutral campaigns. Fear narrows focus, shuts down skepticism, but it's not always overt. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World showed control through comfort, distraction, pleasure, the illusion of choice. Today's equivalent is the smartphone, pinging 200 times a day, each notification a hook. Algorithms don't just predict your wants, they shape them, feeding you outrage or aspiration until you're less a person than a profile. Culture amplifies this. Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism offers a grim insight. We're condemned to be free, burdened by endless choices. That weight drives us to surrender, to let others, leaders, brands, ideologies, define our path. It's why people cling to influencers preaching authenticity while selling identical lifestyles. Viktor Frankl, who endured Auschwitz, saw meaning as the antidote to despair, but manipulators hijack that search. They offer purpose, a movement, a mission that feels like freedom but binds tighter than chains. A 2021 Pew survey found 65% of Americans feel their identity is tied to group affiliations, even when those groups clash with personal values. We don't just follow, we become. Now consider the manipulator's craft. Machiavelli's virtue, cunning adaptability, is their cornerstone. They read people like books, spotting cracks in confidence or flickers of greed. Their tools are precise, framing, presenting options so the right one feels inevitable. A doctor says, "Do you want the surgery now or risk waiting?" You're not asked if you want it at all. Reciprocity, small favors that breed obligation. A free sample, a kind word, and you're subtly indebted. Scarcity, the fear of missing out. Limited time offer, and your wallet's out before you blink. These aren't tricks, they're science, backed by decades of research. Robert Cialdini's influence details how compliance hinges on these levers, each pulling at our wiring. But let's go darker. Manipulation doesn't just steer behavior, it rewires identity. Arthur Schopenhauer saw the will as our core, but it's pliable, molded by forces we barely notice. A manipulator doesn't just want your agreement, they want your soul. Cults are the extreme case. A leader calls you chosen, rewrites your past as a prelude to their truth. Each step, pledges, confessions, locks you in, not by force but by reshaping who you think you are. Cialdini calls this commitment and consistency. One small act, like signing a petition, snowballs into devotion. A 2018 study on extremist groups found recruits often joined not for ideology, but for belonging, only to find their beliefs rewritten within months. This isn't just cults, it's everywhere. Advertising doesn't sell products, it sells selves. A 2022 report showed 80% of Gen Z feels pressure to emulate online personas, buying clothes, diets, even values to fit the mold. Men are fed stoicism and hustle culture, women empowerment through endless self-improvement. These aren't suggestions, they're scripts, internalized until questioning them feels like questioning yourself. Machiavelli understood this structurally. Power isn't personal, it's systemic. A prince doesn't need to charm every subject. He needs a machine, laws, myths, fears, that runs itself. Today's machine is data-driven, tracking your clicks to predict your desires, then selling them back to you. Feel the walls closing in. You're not just a target, you're a participant. Every time you nod to a slick pitch, chase a trend, or mute your doubts to blend in, you're complicit. The trap is insidious because it's comfortable. Hannah Arendt's Banality of Evil wasn't about monsters. It was about ordinary people following scripts, enabling harm through apathy. Manipulation doesn't always wear a villain's face. It's the coworker guilting you into overtime, The news stoking your panic, the app rewarding your scroll. You're not just played, you're playing, caught in a dance you didn't choose but can't stop. So why do we keep dancing? Philosophy offers clues. Søren Kierkegaard spoke of the despair of necessity, the agony of feeling trapped by life's demands. Manipulation exploits this, offering escape through surrender. A leader promises safety, a brand, status, a cause, meaning. We bite because the alternative, facing the void of our own choices, is scarier. Frankl countered that true freedom lies in choosing your response, even in chains. But that's hard. A 2020 study found 60% of people avoid decisions under stress, deferring to authority or habit. We'd rather be led than lost. Neuroscience deepens the picture. The prefrontal cortex, our seat of reason, tires quickly under pressure. Manipulators overload it, fear, flattery, urgency, until we default to instinct. Social media thrives on this, with dopamine hits training us to crave the next like, the next post. A 2024 analysis estimated the average user spends 2.5 hours daily on platforms designed to hijack attention. We're not choosing to scroll, we're conditioned to. Machiavelli's Fortuna, seizing the moment, lives in these tactics. The manipulator doesn't create the weakness, they exploit it, turning your own mind against you. Let's revisit Elena. Months later, she's drowning in work, her creativity drained. Marcus keeps her hooked with praise, but now he's hinting she's replaceable. She's not just working, she's fighting for his approval, her identity tied to his validation. This isn't unique to her. A 2023 workplace study found 55% of employees feel pressured to overperform for fear of losing status. Manipulation scales from one-on-one to entire cultures, where systems, corporations, governments, media reward compliance with belonging, punish dissent with exile. But there's another layer, the manipulator themselves. Machiavelli wasn't writing for saints, he was advising players in a brutal game. To control others, you must master yourself. This is where Jung's shadow returns. A manipulator confronts their own greed, fear, and rage, channeling them into strategy. They're not emotionless. Psychopaths are rare, but disciplined. A 2021 psychology review found effective leaders, even ethical ones, often score high on traits like calculated risk-taking and emotional manipulation. The line between persuasion and control blurs. Think of the CEO who inspires with vision, but fires dissenters without blinking. They're not evil. They're pragmatic, Machiavellian in their clarity. Yet this clarity comes at a cost. Schopenhauer warned that bending others' wills isolates you, trapping you in a world where trust is a liability. Manipulators live in their own cage, suspecting everyone else of playing the same game. Nietzsche's will to power drives them, but it's a lonely summit. A 2019 study on high-control personalities found they report lower life satisfaction, haunted by the paranoia they sow. Machiavelli knew this. His prince sleeps with one eye open. Control others, and you're never free yourself. Now the trap tightens further. You're not just manipulated, you're tempted to manipulate. Who hasn't bent the truth to get their way? A white lie to avoid conflict, a nudge to close a deal. We're all players, even if we don't admit it. A 2022 survey found 70% of people admit to using flattery or guilt to influence others weakly. We learn it young. Children as young as 3 use charm to get treats. It's not malice, it's survival. But once you see the game, you can't unsee it. Every interaction becomes a chessboard, every smile a potential move. This is the real danger. Not just losing control, but losing yourself to the need to control. So is there a way out? Machiavelli offers no mercy. Play or be played. But others see a path. Jung's answer was individuation, facing your shadow to reclaim your will. It's not about purity but awareness, recognizing when your desires are yours and when they are planted. Frankl's logotherapy insists on meaning as defiance. In the camps, he found purpose in small acts, sharing bread, imagining a future. No one could take that choice. Neuroscience supports this. Mindfulness rewires neural pathways, calming the amygdala, strengthening the prefrontal cortex. A 2023 meta-analysis showed meditation boosts resistance to impulsive decisions by 30%. It's not a cure, but a shield. Practically, it's about friction. Question narratives. Why does this ad make you feel lacking? Pause before acting. Does this choice align with your core? Seek discomfort. Dissent, even quietly, builds resilience. A 2024 study found people who regularly challenge groupthink report higher self-esteem, even if it costs social capital. Freedom isn't escaping the game. No one does, but playing it consciously. Nietzsche called it amor fati, loving your fate, not as a victim, but as a creator. You'll stumble, doubt, lose allies. But each step carves out a self no one can fully claim. Let's return to that alley. The figure's still there, their offer hanging in the air. You feel the pull, certainty, power, ease. But now you see the strings. You don't run, don't fight. You ask, what do I truly want? The question burns raw and unyielding. It's not an answer, it's a rebellion. The fog lifts slightly, the path unclear, but yours to tread. Machiavelli's ghost might shrug, but you're not his prince. You're something else, flawed, searching, alive. The game goes on, but now you're writing your own moves. What comes next? That's the question no one can answer for you. What will you choose when the shadows clear?